Now, look, we're going to have time for a few questions from the audience, but I just want to ask a question of this lot first. Then I will come to the gentleman here. He's got the register in straight away. Look, I'd just like to ask all four of you very briefly, listening to the other three, what was the one thing they said to you as they were talking, you thought, crikey, that's something I should be working on. That's something that really interests me in terms of the whole business of health, advancing and accelerating health between the UK and the Arab world. So who wants to take that first? I'm actually going to pause for 30 seconds so somebody can actually choose. I'm going to... Jess, do you want to go first? Yeah.
So when we think about investment opportunities in health tech, we often think about sort of healthcare system change and pharma system change, or like individuals as buyers. I think listening to the very aggressive expansion and growth within esports, the business models that will be needed to support individuals who are building their career in that space, I think are very specific, and hadn't quite realised the extent of growth that happened in such a short space of time. So really excited to learn more about that space after this discussion today. Thank
you, Jess. Dave?
So I think for me, when we start talking about data and different things, the government in the UK 8-9 years ago was talking about early intervention as a big thing. And I think that you have an opportunity here to be, when you're thinking about mental health and different things, to look at cost-benefit analysis. And, you know, like I said earlier, there's a very human level here. But there's another statistic that's really interesting. There was a report recently that was kind of extrapolated across 36 different countries. And it said that if you put the money in, you get a 5-to-1 return on your investment at early intervention in mental health. But really importantly, this was staggering. You would collectively have a combined 43 million years of additional healthy life across those 36 countries. I mean, just on a very human level, we've got to be thinking about. So this is where data to drive government thinking, to drive investment strategies at a government level and at, you know, be at a corporate level, investor level as well, become key.
Very interesting. Jed?
Yes. Actually, as per these interesting presentations, we may, as Tunisia, we may take profit of all this experience, this rich experience, especially the partnership between the UK and the Arabic world. And maybe we shall include Tunisia and the North African Arabic countries in the triangulation and to improve our legal framework, the ecosystem of telemedicine and e-health.
Thank you, Jed. And Talgat, what struck you?
Actually, for me, I think it was interesting to see how many angles are there in the healthcare investment industry. I mean, all of us essentially in the same industry world, but we do different kind of things. And listening to every one of the speakers was actually very fascinating, because it shows you how diverse the industry is and how it attracts public investors, private equity companies, and so on. It just shows you the enormous amount of data of business in the industry.
And we're talking to people, I mean, in this room, and obviously people like the Arab British Chamber of Commerce. What could we in the London Chamber be doing more to facilitate those sorts of discussions? And it strikes me, four of you have met for the first time. You've each been stimulated by what the others said. What can we as organisations do to help further those sorts of conversations?
Yep, I mean, it's great to be, I think in the last year or so, to be actually getting back out and having networking opportunities and communicating, because without those you don't get them. I think any way that you can convene knowledge transfer and sharing of knowledge and expertise, I think is really useful. I think, you know, the challenges we face in health across the board, we all face and we all stand to benefit from. I don't think that this is, you know, perhaps when we think about other parts and other industries, we might be a little more closeted in terms of how we want to communicate. The healthcare challenge globally is one we all face. So how do we share good and best practice in the best way, and how could that be facilitated?
Yeah, okay. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, I agree. We need to facilitate more networking opportunities, but actually I think as well we need to convert it into something tangible. Maybe not like commercial partnerships, but maybe marketing partnerships and so on, to facilitate and foster the the knowledge about the industry and foster the sharing opportunities as well.
And Jess, you're always looking for new opportunities, but doubtless you get a shed load coming through by email every day and you have to fill. Is there a way that could be made more efficient and more effective?
Undoubtedly, yes. I mean, actually, what would be really helpful for us is the most often route for scale-up for health technology companies to date has been to the US, given the spending power per head of capita is far higher in healthcare. Actually, we see the Middle East as a really exciting geography and would love to have more discussions and partnership opportunities whereby we can help those portfolio companies scale up in the Middle East. So actually, I think there's a huge discussion to be had around tech transfer and how we can enable and facilitate that. But to your question, like really, really happy to hear from anyone that's looking for funding from a health tech perspective as well.
Well, I think there's some work for Jed, you and me and the team here for Bandar and Abdul Salam from the chambers to actually get involved in that. We should be facilitators of that. Right, I'm just going to go to the audience. A gentleman here, and he's got the microphone. Brilliant. And there's, before you start, there's a lady at the back who needs to get a microphone next to Richard Moyer. He's the one very well, poshly dressed. And I'm looking for one other person. There's a gentleman here as well. You first, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. By the way, I'm introduce myself. My name's Richard Swift. I'm Program Director for the IAS Group, which I'll drone on about some other time. We're great fans of Aging Analytics, one of your companies, and absolutely excellent and most useful data. The area of health we're looking at is how to help older business people, and that means, I'm afraid, over 45, yeah, right, okay, where the age-related curve of the decline curve, both mentally and physically, is starting to kick in at the same time as the complexity of the challenges one has to handle are accelerating, and how this applies to SME owners, and particularly also in the Arab region to the owners of the dynastic companies on whom the economies are based. Mm-hmm. My question is, we're putting together a consortium on that. It's going quite well. My question is, are you aware of any other initiatives to specifically help older business people to cope with, to get well above the age-related decline curve in both mental performance, endurance, etc., to cope with these challenges? Because I'd love to talk to anyone who is.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm going to come to the panel. I'm going to take 3 questions and then bring them all back to you. So the lady at the back, I can't. You got your microphone? Perfect.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Fatma Shakarchi. I'm a medical doctor from Baghdad, Iraq, and I currently work with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. So I work in the field of digitalization of health and artificial intelligence. And when we talk about artificial intelligence and deep learning, how do we make sure that large populations, such as the ones in Egypt, so the population of Egypt is more than 100 million, and the population of Syria is more than 18 million, and the population of Iraq are more than 40 million, yet they don't have access to electronic medical records. So if we were to talk about deep learning and artificial intelligence, how do we make sure that those majority population that represent the majority of the Arab region are not left behind?
Thank you very much. That's a really good approach to the whole business of health equity. And then finally, gentleman here. Did you get a microphone? How come it went all the way over there? Not there. Good example of poor logistics.
Hello there. My name's Dr. Khan. I'm a GP locally in Marylebone. I work in NHS as well, and also have a private clinic in Harley Street area. My question to specifically Jed would be more towards the legal side of how internationally patients are regulated. Because our plan as a consortium, we work through the Saudi embassy and also the royal family, a bit of royal family from Saudi as well, to have, kind of an internationally recognized patient care. So we, as GMC registered doctors from the UK, are thinking of at least having some sort of telemedicine to treat, basic medical conditions, which we are, we do through nice guidelines here in the UK, but we wanted to expand more wider into Europe and also Middle East as well, preferably Middle East, as the summit as of now. So I was just wondering, here we're regulated through CQC, and internationally, how will it work? See, if I was to treat a rash or give a medicine internationally and liaise with a pharmacy there, are we able to actually treat them? Or how does the cross-border regulations work? So I think it'll be a good, to globalize what we are achieving here.
Really interesting question. So it's almost an extension of the database question and the access to health questions. How do you cross borders in that? Really interesting. So I'm going to come to the three of you. So we've got three interesting questions there. First one I have a personally vested interest in. How do you keep people like me going? Second one is around the big health equity question. These are vast numbers. How do you provide access to health records in such a way as it can improve the health of millions and millions, tens of millions of people across the Arab world? And then the third area, which is probably, Jed, you're the lawyer, you're going to have to answer that. How do we move forward on the legal aspects of enabling cross-border medicine to effectively occur? Who wants to start?
I'm happy to start. So on the schemes and programs that are available to individuals over a certain age, actually we would see that as more of a preventative and proactive approach and problem to solve for. From a business model perspective, would far rather invest in a company that was helping individuals to plan ahead and prevent that from risk from materialising at whatever age parameter you want to target. Clearly there's reactive solutions that you can invest in, like be it wearables, monitoring devices that can help people in a higher risk situation. But actually from a business model perspective, I would much rather the company that we're working with and supporting was thinking about proactive healthcare. Clearly the more, the healthier lifestyle you lead from a younger age, the higher margin there is for overall improvement. So we wouldn't just tend to think about it as a older person's problem. It would be something that we would try and look at from a solution perspective early on, if that makes sense. I'm sure there are schemes out there that would be interesting to you, but I don't have any top of mind, sorry.
So, Dave, being 44 and a half, I'm very close to that, but I definitely feel it, running a number of businesses, doing different things. I think the pandemic, being in and having 3 young children and not being as active as you can be, you can kind of sense that. If you read the Daily Mail, you could play 30 minutes of video games a day. Apparently, that's good for the brain. And there are actually some interesting statistics around that. But getting serious, I think there are a few things to think about. It interests me kind of where groups that existed, like Rotary and different things, what are they doing at the moment for businesses? What does those business channels do, IOD and others, think about in terms of actually supporting that for some way? I totally agree, it's a brilliant, fantastic idea, and if I can help in any way, then please let me know. But also, there's a comment about succession planning, and I think that becomes important as well. So there are, I think about Henry at Camden Wealth and some of those other places that actually, they run succession planning for family offices primarily. But I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from those kind of businesses that are doing that at the moment, because what you've got to do right now is stimulate. And when I talk to families, ultra high net worth families, they say the young people are not necessarily as interested in the traditional investments they made before. They're interested in digital and creative technology-based investment solutions. So it could be about the business or the investments that family makes, diversifying in terms of a portfolio. And we see that portfolio diversification happen. So I think that's one thing. I think the second one is a little out of my wheelhouse, so I won't try and answer it. But the third comment about cross-border medicines is one that interests me and interests us greatly, because that's the same principle for mental health and how we treat mental health. And just looking in the different countries we're working in and starting to work in at the moment, what's there from a government level, what's there from a practitioner's level is different. And trying to at least have some normalization is incredibly important when it comes to education and delivering education interventions that support in-country development of these processes. And then also language is very important as well. You go to different parts of the world and different titles, different practitioners, and understanding of certain mental health conditions are just, they're not even in the language. So I would agree wholly that that's a big challenge.
I just want to, I'm going to come back to Jed at the end, because I want to actually ask you about that in terms of North Africa acting as a bridge to the rest of Africa in a second, particularly over data and everything. But can I just ask you, Talgat, a bit about that big AI issue?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Richard. I wanted to answer the second question from the lady. Yes, I agree that we need to probably be more proactive to integrate and scale up the technologies in different kind of regions. And this is actually, just a quick note, for example, a Deep Knowledge Group, we are moving in November, we are traveling to Dubai and opening a physical office in Dubai to establish this connection and to scale up those expertise that we built here, for example, in AI, in deep knowledge, in deep tech analytics, to scale up and find partnerships in different kind of regions, especially in GCC region as well. So this is why we establishing a physical presence and traveling there. So answering your question, like to scale this up and to really like to make it big, we need to be more proactive, to create more partnerships and to make some steps.
So perhaps you and the doctor at the back should have a chat after this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, please feel free. I would be happy to answer.
Jed, I mean, there's a legal question here, and I know that's your background, but is this an area where we can start looking at something which I know is a huge interest to you, which is the way, not just Tunisia, but North Africa can act as a bridge to the rest of Africa? And the problems around data and things are on the similar scale. We're talking about populations of tens and 20s of millions of people. So is there a legal aspect to that? And is there a route through that legal aspect that Tunisia could possibly help with?
Okay, actually, Tunisia is a double hub. Tunisia is a hub for African medicine because actually a lot of West African countries are closely working with Tunisian authorities to send patients to Tunisian hospitals and private clinics. I mean, in general medicine and other specialties. And it's a hub in another sense. It's the gateway to access to Africa because we have the know-how, we have the youth, we have actually the appropriate framework in terms of universities and hospitals and people who are very well educated that are in a position to provide with the appropriate services. So now what we could consider to improve the legal framework, because actually with telemedicine, we have to forget about borders. Yeah. Patient and any African country could have a chat with a doctor in the UK or in Tunisia or in France. So actually there is a problem of trans-borders liability. Now, we cannot stick to any specific legislation in one country, knowing that there are two parties in both different countries. So maybe we have to push on to unify and issue standards, international standards within international conventions and push people to countries to sign those conventions to protect their own citizens. And this is how we could improve the international framework.
And I think you've actually stimulated something. I think we as the Chambers, looking at Abdul Salam there, we need to have a talk about this business of trans-border medicine, the legal aspects of that. Thank you very much. I just want to give you all just one sentence to say, what's the big thing you want everyone to take away with you from this session? So I'll start with Talgat.
From this session?
Yeah.
I'm just happy to receive some knowledge from the fellow speakers, and I would like to thank my fellow speakers for today. And the biggest thing I want to take away so people can be more proactive and continue to take the necessary steps to continue to develop the technologies in the healthcare especially. And if we keep doing that, I think we'll achieve major milestones in the nearest future.
Dave.
Early intervention is painful because it's an upfront cost and it's a return on investment over time. but we're starting to see examples of early intervention driving real value. So consider it seriously, and save yourself the money in the long run.
Jess.
For me, Europe is the most exciting geography for health tech. It's the fastest growing by valuations and total investment volumes, like year on year, and has been for the past 3 years. So if anyone in the audience is open to a conversation on why we're excited by it, and in particular types of technologies, really happy to have that conversation offline.
Jed, last word.
Okay, what I want to take from here, I want to take you all back with me, guys, to Tunisia. So we came like a delegation of 30 people. I want to especially thank His Majesty Ambassador to Tunisia, who is attending the event. She came especially from Tunisia. So we wanted to visit just to see how the medicine and telemedicine has been improved since the last years. Thank you
So the next time this panel should assemble is in Tunis. Absolutely guaranteed.
We will work on it.
I just want everyone, thank you, Talgat, Dave, Jess, and Jed. And thank you very much indeed. Cheerio.